And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. And I said welcome back. Why? Because we all know you were just listening to one of my other episodes and you came back because you wanted more. And we got a lot more for you. This is the podcast where the rising tide raises all ships. This is the podcast that is about podcasters. It's for podcasters and it's done by podcasters. And the guy I'm talking to today is a podcaster. You know it. You knew it was coming. There it is. And here he is. Without further ado, let me just introduce this guy. I've known him a long time. We go way back. We were just sitting here in the pre-interview talking about how long it's been since we, had each other on our shows, and it's been too long. So we'll get into
I
more of that.
agree.
But this is, I want you to welcome, please, the host of the Range Minded podcast, Steve Zimmerman. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. I'm excited. Thanks for having me on here. I'm
What?
I'm I'm elated.
Wow. I mean, those are some really big money words that you're throwing at me right there. I love that, man. Very, very cool. Um, well, before we get into everything else, I've known you a long time. How you been?
Mhm.
Everything going well for you? What's going on in your life?
Uh, it's been good and bad. This is life's a roller coaster, right? There's ups and downs, and sometimes we just got to hang on. For the most part, been doing good. I think you knew I do carpentry work
Hmm.
as my day job. Started another business. I don't know why. I guess I had some extra few minutes, and I need something else to fill those extra few minutes in every day. So been busy, like
Yeah,
stupid busy.
right. And you're feeling good. Your health is good.
We were talking about this off air.
Yeah.
Um, so there's an event that's called GunCon, and this year or last year actually it was at Brownells, which I don't know if you know what Brownells. Maybe your audience does. I'll tell them anyways.
Yeah. Go
Brownells
for it.
is a huge like a warehouse for firearm parts and all sorts of stuff. It's back in Grinnell, Iowa, and so I decided to hit this event. By the way, if your audience doesn't understand what my podcast is about, it's really dedicated to the Second Amendment and education and safe use, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Anyway, so I go to this event. I take my kid with me. We drive 19 hours to get to this event. On the way there, we stopped for 3 days. We made a trip out of it on the way there. Get there, have a good time, meet a lot of awesome people. We cannonball run it home, making a slight detour to Bucky's in Colorado on the way home back here to Idaho Falls. It was 22-hour drive. So stupid. Did it all in one shot.
Right.
Had a ton of fun, but somehow I picked up a visitor with me, and I started getting sick.
Ugh.
And first, I lost my appetite. I just wasn't hungry. I wasn't weak. I just wasn't hungry. I couldn't eat anything. Then I started coughing, and then those coughs started leading to passing out spells.
Ooh.
And at first, it was just maybe, I don't know, a second or two, but then I noticed it was getting worse. And so that was when it started happening, was like that maybe the last 2 weeks of June. No, yeah, probably about there. And it just kept getting worse. And the cough, that's what it was associated with, was the cough. I wasn't just passing out anytime. It was, I would cough, and then I would black out for a few seconds.
Wow.
I didn't tell my wife because I didn't want her to worry about it. I thought it was just something stupid, honestly, at first I didn't even realize it was happening. I'd be down here in the podcasting studio, doing some show prep or something, and then I'd come to. So it was just really frustrating. Anyway, it got to the point we were at the family friend's house on, it's like July 29th or something like that, sitting at their bar stool in their kitchen. The next thing I know, I'm on the floor, and all these people are freaking out, and I had no idea. I'd fallen off the bar stool, hit my head on the tile floor, apparently really, really hard. Uh,
What the heck?
yeah, and I had no idea it happened, and I was really confused. You're waking up and people are freaking out. So anyway, we decided to go to the emergency room, and this was probably like almost 10 o'clock at night by the time the ER doctor shows up. You know how he gets to the hospital sometimes.
Right.
He didn't believe me. I think that I had passed out. He must have thought that, oh, maybe he was choking on something, or it was just a little passing affair. until I passed out in front of him in the emergency room. And when I came to, I saw the look on his face was like, holy crap, this might be a little bit more severe than we thought. They checked the vitals and everything at the ER, nothing wrong. No elevated heart rate. Blood pressure was a little low, but I always have low blood pressure anyways. No excessive breathing or anything like that. So he was really confused. So they decided to keep me in the hospital for one night. They says, "Oh, let's just keep you overnight and we'll check it." Well, it got worse. Like the pass out spells were longer. I'd actually fallen. I went to the bathroom and I fell in the bathroom and fell backwards into the little shower. You know how in the hospital rooms, you know how they have those collapsible stools
Right.
in the shower.
Yeah.
I'd fallen against that and gashed my back open. Like it was pretty gnarly. And so I got to stay another 2 or 3 days in the hospital, and they checked everything. They checked my heart. I had they checked my brainwave activity, all sorts of stuff. Nothing, no clue. I'm still seeing specialists, and they still have no answers about what was causing these spells. We knew it was associated to the cough, but they have no clue what it could be. And one of the most frustrating things about it, and it is the most frustrating thing about it, the insurance company didn't want to pay because they thought I don't know if thought I was committing insurance fraud or something. Like everybody wants to hang out in the hospital, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah, it's been a fight with the insurance company to pay all this. I've had to pay out of pocket most of this stuff, and it's been super frustrating. But other than that, I'm doing all right.
I know, and all this is because I asked you how you were doing.
You didn't know you were going to go on that journey, did
Oh
you?
my God, man, I'm telling you. I mean, I've had my own issue. I'm not going to bore all of our listeners here because they've all heard it a million times. You know, where I was in the hospital for about a month, and then
Wow.
I had huge surgery and recovery and the whole bit. But at least I knew it was wrong. You know, I can't imagine spending a minute in the hospital, let alone 3 days, and then coming out and having them go, "Yeah, we have no idea why you were
Yeah.
here, but thanks for coming, and here's your bill."
Yeah. And
I'd lose my mind over something
I,
like that.
I don't know if it was this way for you. For me, I'm a pretty independent guy. I've been working full time construction since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Pretty independent guy. And then to be completely helpless, rendered invalid almost is the way I felt.
Yep.
That's what was really, really frustrating to me is I didn't know if I could provide for my family. Is this going to stick around forever?
Right.
And so it was really emasculating, honestly. Like I felt so, honestly, I felt worthless, which
Yeah.
is kind of a hard thing to say, but it's the truth. You know,
Right.
you just don't know what the future holds. So
God, I know exactly what you're saying right now. I, I'm telling you right now, as God is my witness, I know exactly what you're saying. You're laying there and
yeah,
you got five tubes coming out of you, and you're like, I don't know when the next paycheck's coming in. I don't know
right.
what I'm going to be able to do. I didn't even know if I was going to make it at one point, you know, and then what the hell
Wow.
happens? So it was, I feel you, man. I really do. But I'm glad you're better. You're doing better, right? You look good.
I haven't. Well, thank you. I haven't passed out since the first Thursday of November of 24. So I've kept that date in my mind locked in.
There you go.
I've noticed the cough is coming back. It ebbs and flows. I think I'm gonna have the cough forever.
Wow.
It has kind of come back a little bit, so it has made me really really nervous. Um, that I'm just gonna pass out. You know, driving down the highway or something. I get a
Right.
little worried about that. So far so good though.
Well, hang in there, man.
Because of that, I've been working out like crazy. Like been uh, been trying to take better care of myself. So
Good
I
for
guess there
you.
was a benefit on the other end of it.
I was going to say, I mean, it wasn't too long ago. You were on your podcast over here drinking like some, you know, I
Ginger
think
beer.
there it goes, little ginger
I got a whole
beer,
bottle of
maybe
it right
having a
here,
little
waiting to
beef
go.
jerky or
Still.
something. Yeah. I mean,
Oh
you
yeah,
were not
probably beef
exactly
jerky
following
too.
a healthy lifestyle. So, no, good for you. Listen, I appreciate, you know, reconnecting with you. Thank you for coming on this podcast.
Yeah.
You've appeared on my other one before, and
Hmm.
you know, I love your podcast. I love your subject matter. Um, let's back up and get everybody else caught up to speed here because
Sure.
you and I have known each other for a while. So for this group of listeners, for the Podcaster Nation, these are other podcasters, obviously, just like yourself. And you mentioned to me it was weird being in the interviewee seat instead of being
Yeah.
on this side of the mic. So that's what we do here. Tell everybody, give them a good idea. You know, what's the podcast about? What does it mean to you? Why'd you start it? That kind of thing.
Sure. Well, buckle up. I'll make a conversation out of it.
All right, here we go.
So I've been involved in the firearms community since probably, well, professionally, probably about 2014. I got some instructor credentials. That was really the goal, was to teach kids and women, because I knew that was the future of the Second Amendment, and I wanted to make sure that was fortified to maintain freedom for the next generation of citizens.
Sure.
Eventually, that took me to Boise, where I ran Idaho's largest indoor shooting range, just outside of Boise, which was a ton of fun. Actually, I really missed that job. It was a very, very fun job. Not that it paid awesome, but it was just a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of educating there as well. I helped out a lot of people, which again is teaching. Really is something I really, really enjoy. While we were there, we decided that why don't we start a podcast for this store? And that was in 2018. So three of us employees got together and we decided, yeah, let's make this happen. So since 2018, that's when Range Minded Podcast started, and there was three of us back then. And eventually, they were all, the other two hosts found greener pastures, went on to different employment, which is fine. I don't feel ill about it at all. But I decided I would keep the podcast going, and after, because I couldn't find a place to live in Boise, I was actually living in my camper while my wife and kids were on the other side of the state. It just got to be too much. I was there 2 years. It was just too much to be away from them, and obviously really frustrating. So I came back to Southeast Idaho and brought the podcast with me. Ended up buying that away from the store, which was fine because I knew they weren't going to do anything with it. So I just kept it alive. And since then, I haven't been 100% diligent. As content creators, I'm sure all of your listeners and you will understand, sometimes it's really difficult to think of content.
Oh yeah.
To
Yeah.
think of topics, especially in the two-way world, because, well, and maybe it's just my perspective. When you're immersed in something, it seems like everybody's talking about a specific topic and you just don't want to jump on the bandwagon. And so I kind of hit a creative stall, and there was probably 6 or 8 months where I just didn't create anything.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got frustrated about everything, thinking, man, I have all this stuff. Why am I not doing something with it? And so I got back on there, and since then I've produced video. It was just audio podcast up to that point, but I started doing video podcasts. I started getting a lot more involved in social media, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a lot of fun. Obviously, the Second Amendment and firearms, self-defense, that can be a touchy topic for maybe half of the country.
Sure. Yeah.
But I still think it's an important topic. And I'm not like the high-speed cool guy stuff where I don't, do content about, hey, let's talk about why this gun is so much better than anything else out there. I don't do that. There's plenty of people in that space. My goal is to educate people on what the Supreme Court talks about. Like this last episode I just produced last night is about the Second Amendment, the text of the Second Amendment, the intent of the founding fathers. I dove into that a little bit more than what most people really do in their shows. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a little bit more intellectual. I like the high speed cool guy stuff, but they all have sponsors. They get guns for free, a lot of them, and that space, like, they're way more established than I am at this point when it comes to that kind of content.
Sure.
So I don't really feel like fishing in that pond. I'd rather do something a little bit more intellectual and raise, more people up in a way that they can understand why they have the Second Amendment.
Sure.
And what it entails.
You've always done a good job about that, though. I mean, your podcasts have always been educational. And, over the last 4 years, especially, there's been a lot that has gone, in and out of the court system and been proposed and argued about. And you did a really good job, of keeping people sort of abreast of what was happening, breaking it down so they could understand it, so they don't have to go read through all of the legal, paperwork and stuff that's out there. And you just kind of let everybody know this. Here's the breakdown. This is what they're fighting about. So you've done a good job of that, man. You really have.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship, and I think you'll understand that as a podcaster. sometimes it sucks making content, but I do it because I enjoy it. Honestly, it's kind of a reprieve from the real world.
Sure.
I watch the news and watch too many videos, spend too many late nights doom scrolling through YouTube,
Right.
coming up with ideas for content.
Right. And I'm glad that you actually told that part of that story. I really am. I mean, I follow you on all the socials and everything else. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we've known each other for a while. Um, every content creator hits a spot
Mm-hmm.
where it doesn't matter, how deep you're trying to dig, where you're pulling from, how much coffee you drink. You know what I mean? You're
Right.
just not coming up with new stuff. Everybody hits that point at some point. Now, the difference between you and a lot of other folks is that a lot of people go, all right, well, I got nothing left, so I guess I'm done. And they leave, you know?
Right.
And you didn't do that, man. You weathered that storm, and you're back killing
Yeah.
it again. So congratulations,
Well,
because
I hope I'm
it's
killing
awesome.
it. I got to the point where, I mean, I could have easily just stopped the podcast when I left the store in Boise. Easy. I could have just walked away and had many of my evenings free.
Yeah.
Um, but I enjoyed it, right? Even with all the frustration and the mental block and all that stuff, I didn't want to give it up because I guess because it was my baby.
Right.
And when you create something as an artist, I do a little bit of artwork, not much anymore like I used to, but when you create something that you feel has some value, it's hard to walk away from it.
Yeah.
Even if there really is no monetary value to whatever that subject is, it's still kind of hard to give it up because it still gnaws at the back of your mind. Like, what if I didn't finish? I'd rather do something and fail at it than not do anything and wonder what would have happened. So
Yeah, I mean it's
with that sort of stuff.
that meme that everybody sees on social media where the two guys are digging underneath, and the one guy's still going, and there's the pile of diamonds he's gonna hit, and then the other guy like turns around and walks away and gives up, and there's this giant diamond like 6 inches away from him,
Yeah.
and that's where we all are, yeah, as creators, as podcasters, man. We're all always dealing with that,
Yeah.
if I leave now, maybe the next podcast is the one that goes viral.
Right.
you know, or the right person someplace finds it, hears it, makes the right comment at the right time on the right post, and then boom, everything goes off. So the
Well, it's like
frustration
here
is real, brother.
I'll give you an example, and this is like a pretty juvenile example of what we're talking about. So I've been making memes a lot lately. Most of them get zero traction. Every once in a while, I'll get a zinger out there, and I made one about Pam Bondi, who just got elected as the attorney general,
Yeah,
who really isn't that pro Second Amendment, even though she flouts it that she is. She has a history of really doing some underhanded things in Florida. So I made a comment about that in this meme that I made, and I shared it to a pretty good sized YouTuber called Johnny B, who does meme reviews on YouTube. Well, he played that in his video today and gave me a shout out. It was a stupid meme of something I spent 30 seconds on, but the feeling that I got when he said, "Hey, this is my buddy Range Minded. What's up, man?" And like how lame of that. Like to him, it's probably nothing, but to me, I'm like, yeah, I got recognized by a dude that's got way more followers than me.
that's
It's
not
just
lame, man.
it's
That's
silly.
awesome. That's fantastic. That's how you build. I mean, that's how goofy this whole thing
Exactly.
is,
And
that we all do.
I guess that's what I'm getting to is like sometimes we feel like what we do is insignificant.
Hmm.
A 30-second meme is not that big of a deal. You copy and paste a picture from the internet. But then somebody recognizes it and they see it. And then it's like that diamond, like the example you just mentioned. It's like that diamond that's just behind another 6 inches of dirt. We don't know where that diamond is sitting as podcasters or content creators. One of these days, we're going to find a diamond. And one of those days, when that happens, that diamond is going to bring some kind of reward, but we don't know till we find it. And
Right.
so, I don't know.
You know what? Yeah, you do. And this is exactly the whole thing, man. This is what we do as podcasters. I love being able to have this conversation, because you've been around for a while. You're not, 5 episodes in. You've suffered some of the scars. You've been through some of the
Yeah.
battles. So, you
Well,
you get it.
and they say that was like 2% of podcasters get back past episode 2 or 1 or whatever in the world. I mean, there's millions and millions of podcasts out there with just 1 or 2 episodes. I'm at I just published episode 269. So I've been around for a hot minute, even though
Congrats.
I took
Yeah.
that several months hiatus. I try, and like I said, it may not always bring a reward for other people, but it gives me something to do, to look
Yeah.
forward to.
Funny that you brought that up. I happen to have the numbers sitting right here in front of me because I just did a post of this in our private group, the Podcaster Nation, which, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sending you an invite for so that you can jump in there.
Awesome.
There are currently, as of the last podcast, report, there are 2,743,850 podcasts that are out there right now. Out of those, there are 381,197, let's see, that are active.
Wow.
Okay. Active. So you're talking 2.4 million, like you were just talking about, where they did a few episodes and they're done. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those 381,000, only 34,000 of them are what they call established. And that means you're over
Ah,
100 episodes. So that 100 has become the new, like, magic moment benchmark, right? Out of, like I said, 34,000 are over 100 episodes. That's it. Out of
out of that 2 million.
2.7 million. I mean, that's insane, is what that is. You know what I mean? So it's when I do a lot of podcast coaching, man. And when I'm talking to folks, I'm like, look, don't worry about anything till you get past episode 20. Just
Right.
talk, publish, and move on. Don't kill yourself on editing. Don't kill yourself on all sorts of creative. Don't waste your time with, big setup and a lot of money. Just put out.
Right.
Sit down, talk, record, publish, right?
Right.
And once you've done 20 episodes, say, hey, how do I feel about this? And if you love it, great. At 20 episodes, you have an idea if you love it.
Right.
If you're sitting at 20 episodes and you're like, I'm not sure if it's worth the work, you know what? You're done. You're probably done.
And I love how you mentioned that you don't need to go crazy on equipment. Like when I started paintballing a long time ago, when paintballing was cool, I went all in. You spend a lot of money on, all the cool guy stuff, but then you only go a couple times. And is it really worth spending a ton of money on something that you're only going to do once or twice, maybe ever? And the
Right.
same thing it comes with when you're buying your equipment. If you have an up to date cell phone and a good set of headphones with a mic or something, you can create it, and you don't have to be anything crazy. If it's something you're passionate about, that's all you really need is a
Right.
way to record it, a way to publish it, and a passion, and that's all you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell people all the time, if you want, just use your phone.
Yeah.
Just start. You know what I mean? And put it out there. It won't be perfect, but my goodness, nobody's episode one is
No.
perfect. Do you remember
No.
your episode one?
uh I can't remember. That was been a minute. I mean,
I
that's
know.
200 and
I
two
know
hundred
it.
and something episodes ago. I don't remember. I just remember never visiting, a lot of those first few episodes. I would never go back and listen to them. And then I had somebody else tell me, you need to be listening to what you're producing. I'm like, I was there. I talked about it. I don't need to revisit it. And I'm glad I took his advice because I realize my speech patterns. I do a lot of filler words like uhs and making stupid noises.
Right.
And maybe I'm just hypersensitive to it, but I've noticed as I actually actively edit, uh, I I realize that I can save 3 minutes of audio by just clipping out filler words that are unnecessary.
Sure. Absolutely. The now you mentioned, startup, about paintball and stuff, but how'd you start with your podcast? What was your beginning equipment? What'd you have? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was through the store, so maybe they helped you
Right.
out. I don't know, but what'd you start with?
So luckily, Mark, one of the hosts, he was involved in the he was a DJ already, so he understood how to make things sound good. So when we started the podcast, I said, Mark, I need a list of what you think is affordable and effective. So we perused the internet and he found some stuff on Amazon. So I still have the board actually. It's a Yamaha. Let's see, what is it? The MG10XU or something. I can't really read it, and the light's dark in here. It's a nice board. It's got 4 mics I can plug into it, and it's got a bunch of other stuff I can do with it. So
Okay.
it's a quality board. It was probably I think now they're like $120 or something. And then we got 4 mics as well. So it wasn't crazy, but it was a good setup
Sure.
and it was affordable. I think, excuse me, I think we were probably under $200 total by the time we were all done
That's cool
with
though.
the
Uh,
initial purchase. And I bought other stuff since then. I bought some different mics and stuff since then, but I haven't gone crazy. Now there's stuff I would love to buy,
yeah,
but
the wish
that'll
list is
come down the
that's a
road
whole
later.
different topic. The wish list is a whole different topic.
Yeah.
For sure. I understand that, man.
But
Um,
I've recorded, just like we were talking, I've recorded episodes just on my phone with corded iPhone headphones.
nice.
I've done that before.
Yeah. I try to get people to understand that you don't want to spend that kind of money right out of the gate because you don't even know if you
No,
like it yet, But
no.
now you had a nicer setup than most, and that's probably because you had several guys to
Yeah.
start with. When you're a
Yeah. And
single
like I said, Mark
pole, it's
was a
different.
huge benefit because he
Yeah,
was involved in the radio industry.
yeah.
So he would, and I had done radio in the past way a long time ago. People laugh at me. I used to be a top 40 DJ. We're talking years ago, like
I didn't know that.
2099,
Really?
2000, somewhere in there. Yeah.
You were a top 40 DJ on the radio.
Yeah. I was a
No
weekend guy.
joke.
So anybody that's involved in radio knows that the weekend guy is pretty low on the totem pole. But yeah, I did that for a couple of years. It
Do you
was
have one of
fun.
those? Do you have one of those fake names, or were you actually like
Yeah. And we're not going to,
Stevie Z or something?
nope. And I'm not going to share it because I like keeping it a secret. My kids are so frustrated because I never tell my kids. They really always want to know. I'm like, no, you're never gonna know. Just just because.
Oh
It's not even
man.
like embarrassing or anything like that. It's just fun to keep it a secret.
All right. Oh, hey, I won't push. I mean, that's fine. If you ever decide you want to let it go, do it on one of my shows, will you?
My wife's because my wife used to come in and hang out at the studio with me
Mhm.
at the station, and she slipped one day, and I don't know if my son heard it, but I don't know if he remembers what the name is. He's like, I know it now. He was all excited, but yeah, I don't. I just I just like to bug my kids with it and don't tell them.
That's great. Now, okay, so you were already a DJ before you got into
Yeah,
podcasting. Okay.
again, that was a long time ago.
Right. Um, I assume that helped you. I ask people sometimes,
Yeah,
did you have to like overcome some obstacles or was there anything that was hard about like becoming a podcaster? Not everybody can just sit here and have a conversation with a mic,
right.
and have it come out sounding like it's, good stuff. Were there any challenges for you or were you already like completely rolling and smooth as silk because of your DJ experience?
Oh, definitely not smooth as silk. I think that there probably was a benefit there because I was used to speaking in the mic. I understand the distance you need to be to get some sound out of your voice to a mic. I understood all
Right.
that kind of stuff. But there's still everybody has the barrier of listening to their own voice, right? They hate the way they sound, and for some reason they're going to think that everybody's going to hate the way they sound. So that is still. I mean, I still get annoyed by the sound of my voice. It just is what it is. Um, so I think that was a barrier a little bit, but again, I think there wasn't a lot. I wasn't really nervous about it. What I was really nervous about was the editing and the production side of it, getting stuff out. I didn't really understand how that worked in the beginning, but that's where Mark stepped in and he took care of all that stuff, which I was extremely grateful for. But when he left, it was all up to me, and I had to figure out how to do it.
Sure.
Which it really isn't that hard. It's pretty easy.
Well, once you get going with it, it's easy.
Yeah,
Right.
I bounce back and forth from different services and a lot, trying to figure out what's best. I still don't think what I'm using is the best, but it's what I have right now.
So when you started this whole thing, was it when you started the podcast, when you decided, hey,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to go with a podcast for a vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
was that to talk about Second Amendment, or was that primarily about pumping up the store and the activities you had going on there?
The intent was really for both,
Okay.
right? The store was already popular because it was the only 100-yard indoor range, um, with well, a long ways away. Like I don't know where the next nearest 100. I think there's one in Salt Lake, but it's one lane. We had four bays in this range, which was sweet. So we wanted to get our show out there or our store out there more than just in the Boise area.
Mhm.
And obviously we wanted to highlight the employees because I felt that would be kind of fun to give the employees a chance to, feel like they have a bigger voice than just inside the store. and then talk about products and interview people. That was really the intent. It was just kind of an all around something simple but also complicated at the same time, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Sure, it does actually. So maybe it's just because we're both podcasters. Yeah, but so why podcasting? I mean, especially since you'd been on the radio, why not do an infomercial or purchase like a radio show time slot on a
Yeah.
Sunday or something? Why podcasting as the medium?
Well, I think I looked at like Joe Rogan and some of these other folks that have been established podcasters and understood that the reach was different. The audience was different. You're captive. I feel like, anyways, the audience is a little bit more captive, especially when they develop a relationship with the people on the show. You have them.
Right.
Whereas and I've done YouTube stuff before for the store and for myself, and it's just hard to get people to stay and watch and listen for long enough. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just I have a face for radio. That could be it. Why people aren't watching. Uh, and I'd done when I worked at the range here in Idaho Falls. I had done some radio stuff as well. I'd done some other news radio interviews and some tips and stuff that we put on as like a commercial for the stores here. But it just wasn't the same. I felt like the podcast would give us the ability to share more content to a more concentrated audience and develop a fan base that would come to the store and feel like, hey, I'm meeting a celebrity, even though we're nothing. Like, we're definitely not celebrities. So I don't know. That's why we chose podcasting, I guess.
That's great. Honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better answer, to be honest with you. So I hope everybody's paying attention to that because you just basically highlighted the positives of podcasting as a medium.
Yeah.
So I think it's great.
Podcasts are really how people get information nowadays, right?
Yeah.
You used to sit down and watch Walter Cronkite or the McNeil Laird News Hour or whatever. I'm showing my
Right.
age now,
We did.
but
Yeah. We watched Walter.
but that generation of information is gone. Everything is skewed by bias now. Whenever you watch TV, and honestly, whenever you turn on YouTube or you get on X or any of that, all that information is biased. Honestly, podcasts are biased too, but at least it's something. You're getting more information as a listener. You're getting more information or a deeper volume of information than you would off of a newscast or off of a 30-minute YouTube video. I
Sure.
think, anyways.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, now my dog's barking.
That's one of my interviews earlier today. The guy was like, "Hey, you may hear some background noise," and I used that as an example. I said, "Hey, man, you know what? If the dog's barking, the dog's barking. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're all living lives. I mean, none of us are Joe Rogan out here right now. Okay, so,
Yeah, I wish I could insulate my studio, but it is not.
right. And for folks who are on the audio, they're not going to get it. But the folks who see this on YouTube and Rumble, they're going to get to see that backdrop. Tell
Yeah.
everybody about your studio, dude. Just because I know the story, but not everybody else does. I mean, that's awesome. I still love it. So
So, uh, I'm a self-proclaimed patch whore, which I know that that's not quite church language, but if you look over would be my left shoulder,
okay.
there's a morale patch wall. So high-speed cool guys in the industry, for some reason, they love morale patches, and I am definitely one of those people that I think they're funny, they're clever, they're cool. So I have, I don't know, maybe 200 patches on the patch wall to one side of me. And then right behind me, I made these sticker panels. I just bought some glass and made some frames that I put stickers on. Originally, I put lights behind there, but they broke, so you can't really see like how the lights light up the stickers, which I thought would be really awesome.
Okay.
And then I got flags and targets hung up, and it's a mess.
I
I
love it.
It's just tactical stuff, honestly.
No, I really do. And I remember talking with you about this because you were considering changing it at one point, and
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, hey, I love it. And what happens is there's so much chaos behind you with everything that's going
There's
on
chaos behind me.
that you're the centerpiece. You're the calm in the storm. You know what I mean? So it almost forces everybody to focus on you and not on the backdrop. Whereas like some folks have this really nice studio and they've got like books on the shelf and stuff behind them, and everybody's trying to figure out what the books are that are on the shelf. They're not
Yeah.
looking at the person talking, and I'm like, in your case, I mean, you are the calm in the storm in that entire thing. You're the eye of that hurricane. It's going
I
on behind.
love that. I love that because I have had people say, your studio there's too much going on. You need to change it.
Oh, I love it.
but I probably won't change it because I like my patches, I like my stickers, I like my flags.
There you go.
It's
I
just the way
mean,
it's going to be.
it's you, brother. So that's
That's
the
how
way
my
to
mind
go.
is too. By the way, it's just cluttered with things.
Yeah, all swirling around, the one point of calmness in the entire deal. No, I love that. The Now you've been doing this for many years, and social media has come along and changed
Hmm.
things. Just in the time that you and I have been doing our podcast.
Oh yeah.
Um, Now, what do you do to promote your show? Because these are podcasters who are listening. So, what do you do to promote your show, and how was it at the beginning? Different from how you do it today.
So in the beginning, I think all we would do is if we or when we produced a show, it would be like one Facebook post, maybe. But we did have the avenue for the store's website. We had there was a link there on the website that people could jump into if they wanted to see what the store was talking about on the show,
Hmm.
which was kind of nice because you have a kind of a captive audience there. Now, and I still struggle with this, is is trying to blast all the social media accounts with, "Hey, I produced a show. This is what it is," and then providing a link. I'm not very good at that. I wish there was a better service or a better way to like spam all those social medias to get them all at once.
Right.
Honestly, email collection would be nice. I don't collect emails like other podcasters may. I should find a way to do that somehow so I can get my listeners get a direct notification when a show comes out. And I'll get there eventually. I just haven't really pursued that,
Mhm.
honestly. I get enough emails that I imagine other people get sick of, you know, emails that they don't need anyways. So,
Sure. Sure. Okay. And so you're on all the platforms basically at this point, right? Is there
mhm.
anything that you've stayed away from or that, you avoid?
um, OnlyFans, no. Uh, sorry. Sometimes
Just,
I say things that come to my mind that I don't need to.
just
Uh,
was not expecting that as an answer, but we'll just keep on moving. All right.
so I'm not as scared as TikTok as other people are. TikTok is a pain in the butt, honestly.
Mhm.
Any kind of defensive information that you share on TikTok is highly scrutinized.
Yeah.
The Chinese don't like independence,
Right.
and I've almost lost my account on TikTok. Which if I do, I'm not really that concerned about it. But lately, in fact, just today, I think I got like 30 subscribers today, just today on TikTok.
Wow.
So I think with this latest round of with President Trump almost canceling it and then bringing it back, there might be some kind of a resurgence there. So I've been hitting that. Not so much with videos anymore. I used to put more videos on there, but they kept getting flagged and flagged and flagged. So I'll just post a meme or something on there with some music and call it good. And I've been getting way more traction there than anywhere else that I've been posting memes, which I find interesting. Um, and then I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. I do like Twitter a lot
Hmm.
because it feels like it's a more free form to say what almost whatever I want.
Yeah.
And I'm not edgy or anything. I don't share dirty stuff on there. In fact, I'll do spaces once in a while on X, and I'll kick people out if they're cussing too much or whatever. I say, hey, no F words or anything on here, or I'll kick you out. And I have, and they don't like it, and I don't care because I feel like as adults we should be able to communicate without sharing, language that doesn't need to be there.
You would think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've also worked in the oil fields, and I understand how people talk. So
Sure. All right. No, that's oh, it's a good deal, man. I never know what I'm going to get, man, when I'm talking to you. I'm still laughing about the OnlyFans comment. I'm just like, did not see that one
I've been
coming.
trying. I'm not gonna lie. I've tried to figure out a way to manipulate OnlyFans. If it wasn't all pornography, like I would feel more comfortable having some kind of gun content or something on there. It would probably get kicked off anyways. But I feel like that would be an awesome, if it wasn't so terrible, an awesome way to share two-way related content. But I just will not, sign up for OnlyFans. Like I just won't do it. So
I'm glad to hear that. Let me just voice my support for
Yeah.
you not going down that
I've
path.
joked about it all the time. I've talked about selling feet pictures on there and stuff just as a joke, but I'm never going to
Oh
have an
my.
OnlyFans account. Let's just be honest.
I pride myself on keeping things on rails, and we've lost the rails. I'm not even sure I can see the rails anymore. All right, with this thing. Oh my goodness.
I like pushing people off. It's a jujitsu thing, right? Push people off center.
Exactly. All right. And yeah, hey, that's we talked about promoting your show, and then you and I talked briefly, just about your journey through kind of like monetization.
Hmm.
Whenever I'm coaching, podcasters and stuff, I mean, it doesn't matter if they have two episodes out. The first question everybody wants to know is how can I make money? How can I get ads? How can I
Right,
monetize? Right? That's what everybody wants to know. But there are a lot of different ways to monetize. And right now, I'd say there's probably more ways than ever
right.
even more than just a year or two ago. There are a lot of different avenues to, sort of monetize your podcast. But you've been through the journey. I mean, when you've been around as long as we have, you have it was a whole different world 5, 6 years ago than it is today.
Right.
So, tell us how that's gone for you.
So I'm basically not monetized.
Okay.
Everything comes out of my pocket. Do I want to be monetized? Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I don't need to make $1 million doing this. Most podcasters aren't going to make $1 million doing a show. But if it would pay for the internet, dude, I'd be so excited just about that. Um, and I do. I don't have any sponsorships, but I've reached out to different places where you talk about this, and there's a QR link or whatever that you get a percentage of sales from that link.
Yeah.
And I have actually seen nothing from those links.
Okay.
So um, I'm still struggling with monetization. Most people don't want to look at me because my subscribership on like YouTube is so low that they're like, no, we're not going to waste my time on. So that's my goal this year is to get to 1,000 subs, which is pretty small. As for as long as I've been doing this, I haven't figured out how to gain subscribers, which is pretty sad. But I keep going.
I hear you, man. I appreciate just your honesty and stuff. It's a lot of people don't want to talk about monetization. That's why I asked you ahead of time, and you're like, "No, let's talk about it. Why not?"
Yeah.
But you're trying, you're working through things. That's cool. Um, the issues that you've had, like, with a little bit of burnout and, content creation, come up with ideas, not hitting it on monetization and trying to kind of find your way. Social media not being the easiest thing in the world to go master
Yeah.
because it does take a lot of your time, right? And you're
Yeah.
working full time and taking care of family and the whole bit. Um, you're talking about problems that a lot of people have. And so
Hmm.
right now, there's a lot of folks out there who are listening to this, and whether they approve of the podcast topics and whether they support the Second Amendment or not, they're listening to you as a podcaster, and they're going, "Yeah, you know what? I've had those issues. I know what you're talking about." And everybody when they have those issues, they feel like they're the only ones having them.
Right.
Because they see Joe Rogan and all these other guys, and on Instagram, everybody's driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and they're all, visiting Italy again for the 10th time, and we're over here trying to keep the electric bill, paid, and find a way to pay for our podcast subscriptions, and
Right.
people that you feel alone. You know what I mean? So I appreciate the fact that, you've been a successful podcaster. You've had this thing going for a long time, but even somebody like you is having some of these issues. So that's going to help
Yeah.
somebody, man.
I'm gonna share some advice that. So I mentioned at GunCon, and the nice thing about GunCon is there were a lot of established 2A creators. They had a panel there, so we could ask questions. And there was one individual that I really admire. I like his content a lot. It's pretty similar to mine, but he does a lot of short form stuff, nothing long form. So I asked him, I was like, what are the milestones that you've reached or you felt like changed your show to bring it where it is? I mean, he's very monetized. He's got a huge following. And he said, look, you're looking at it completely the wrong way. He says, stop looking for the milestones. Stop looking for the next big thing. Just create your content. Those things will come when they come. And when it does, it's awesome. But when you don't chase those things, once you start chasing those things, you're not genuine anymore. You're not your channel anymore. You're
Right.
trying to be somebody else's channel. So stop doing that. That's what I really needed to hear. Right? The whole point of me going to that event was to be exposed to new people, which I'm cool with. That that was a success there. But what I really need to hear is what Jared told me that day.
Yeah.
Stop chasing the milestones, focus on your content, and get it done. And that's it. Everything else will follow. So there's my advice on that point, I guess.
That's awesome. That's usually my last question. So you jumped way ahead on me. I'm
Oh,
not done.
sorry.
I'm
Oh,
not done
no, I
with it
ruined
yet.
it.
No, not at all. I leave it to you to be ahead. You know what I mean? You're outflanking me over here. I usually, I almost always end with, what's one piece of advice you have for people. So
Oh,
that's
I'm sure I
awesome.
could come up with something else.
That's awesome. So, yeah, more people need to do that, and you've always done that, man. I mean, honestly, your content speaks for itself. You've always had good stuff. It's always quality. You take time putting it together. You're not a guy who just sits down and goes, "All right, I'll think of something here real quick," and 15 minutes
No,
later
I mean,
you're
I've done that.
you're done.
And those, when I do that, those episodes are usually pretty lackluster, honestly.
No, you've had a lot of research in a lot of your episodes, man, and I
I
know
try.
because
I appreciate it.
I've been like, I'm really glad I didn't have to do that research.
Yeah,
You
nobody
know.
wants to sit down and read like a Supreme Court ruling from 1995. That sounds like a ton of fun.
No, I'll listen to you summarize it for me. That'll do. Give me the Cliff's notes. You know what I mean on what happened. But yeah, so I love that. Let me hit you with my corny question. I keep
Nice.
asking it because I get awesome answers to this from a lot of different folks. So um, here it comes. What is when it comes to podcasting, to
Mhm.
doing your podcast, right? What is the thing about doing your podcast that you love the most? And what is your thing about doing the podcast that you just hate?
Okay. I'll start with the hate because I don't want to end on a negative.
All right.
So the worst part about doing my show, and we already kind of touched on it, is time for one thing, and bleeding through the content that I want to create is the other thing. Sometimes the research is aggravating and annoying and boring. And then I think about the time that because you're giving up one thing for the other, right? I'm sacrificing time with my family for time and show prep. So
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest negative that you're going to have creating any kind of content. Now, the thing I love about being a podcaster, and I mentioned this before too, is I love to teach. Obviously, I love to talk, right? I talk too much, but I love teaching. I love sharing something that I feel passionate about with other people and hopefully igniting the same fire I have about something in somebody else so they can share it with somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. One of the key phrases, catchphrases I use in the show is to take somebody shooting. And the reason why is the Second Amendment is taboo for some people. We touched on that in the beginning of the show. A lot of people have a negative view of the Second Amendment because they'll watch news and the news tells them an opinion and not a fact. They'll say something like, "Oh, there was 500 mass shootings last year, more than days in the year." But when you dive into the content, you realize no, that's a lie. There wasn't. Even if you use their websites, you find out they're manipulating the numbers to make it look worse than it is. So there's this negative view on the Second Amendment, and if I can change somebody's mind, or at least cause them to do some of their own research so
Mhm.
they can change their own mind, that's what I love about sharing the content that I do. That there might be one person, just one person that I get to think, hey, this isn't what everybody says it is. And if I can save just one life, right? If I can just change one person, it's
Right.
totally worth it for me. And I don't know who that person is or who that might be, but I hope I have, changed somebody's mind at least once.
That's great.
That's why I do it. That's what I love about it.
I love it. I got to ask you this, and I've thought about it before, but I've never had a chance to ask you. Where does where does this come from with you? I mean, this absolute passion, love, if you will, for the Second Amendment. I mean, there's something deep there for you.
Sure.
Where does that come from, brother?
So to start with, I grew up in a house where guns were not really a big thing. My my dad had some old guns that we never shot. They just they sat in a closet. We never had ammunition, nothing. We never shot them. My 17th birthday, my brother gave me a rifle and my mom freaked out. but I still have it. I still love that gun. And for some reason that changed my perspective on firearms. Like I said, my parents weren't anti-gun by any means, but they definitely weren't really pro-gun either. But getting that rifle just changed how I looked at the firearms community. Went to gun shows, saw the weird side of the 2A community, but I also saw the really positive, stalwart side of the 2A community. And I wanted to be like those group of people, the people that really cared about what they have. I'm also really patriotic. It's not that I'm pro 2A only. I'm pro freedom. I'm pro republic. And so when I look at the Bill of Rights, for example, the Second Amendment might be the second one in there, but it fortifies all the others that were given to us. I'm definitely pro free speech, freedom of religion, freedom to assemble. I love all the rights that we have. They're there for a reason. The Second Amendment just keeps those in place and keeps tyranny or whatever else from encroaching encroaching on what we have. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about the Second Amendment. Plus, I just love shooting. I love everything about guns. I love the way they feel. I love the way they smell. I love the mechanics. I mean, you build a 1911 from scratch. You learn a lot about what a gun can do as far as the internal components. I just love everything about it. Everything.
Wow. Yeah, and I've missed asking you that question before, and I
Yeah.
knew there was an answer that was going to bring tears to my eyes, dude. And I mean, I love it. That's one of them. One more question, if you got time.
I got, dude, for you, I got all the time you want.
Oh, I love it. Um, and maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. I don't know. Let's put you to the test a little bit. I know you don't do a lot
It's
of
not math, is it?
in you know, I
Okay,
know
good.
you don't do a whole lot of like with individual guns and things like that. But I'm curious. Somebody who hears this and maybe becomes a little impassioned and says, you know what? I've been wanting to buy a gun for a while. I've been
Mhm.
wanting to arm myself. I've been wanting to protect my family. Where does somebody start? I mean, someone who doesn't have one, they don't have any knowledge, they don't have any training, they don't own anything. Where do they begin?
So, luckily, in the last probably 10 years, the way shooting ranges and gun stores have evolved has been greatly geared towards the future of the Second Amendment. If you can find a good, reputable range, usually they have guns that you can rent and try out. That's a good safe bet to see, if you like shooting at all. The other thing I wish more people were more willing to share is that they own guns and that they enjoy the Second Amendment and invite other people to go. Like if you can find somebody that has firearms that's responsible with guns, that's a huge thing. That you can feel safe going to shoot with them. That's another great way to get an idea if you like guns. I have taught classes where there was a gal in there that once she realized, because I get pretty heavy in my classes as far as like, excuse me, the responsibility if you use a gun, like what could happen. And she realized that this is not for me. She didn't even finish the class. She's like, I don't want to carry a gun. I don't want to deal with the repercussions of if I have to take a life, which I totally respect.
Sure.
And it isn't for everybody. But if you can find somebody that you're comfortable to go shooting with, that you can ask questions and you feel confident that friend of yours can answer those questions and help you along that journey, that's awesome. That's, like I said, that's kind of why I wanted to get going into the industry, was to be that person that people could come to, which obviously I can't help everybody in the United States. I'd love to, but that's just not possible. But I want to be able to show people that listen to the show that you can help other people. Like, just be honest with how you feel about your firearms and invite people to go with you. That's all it takes. There might be some safety stuff that you need to learn about. Some people really are less than safe when it comes around firearms use, but take a class. That's the other thing, is a lot of people, they want to buy all this cool gun stuff, all the cool gear, but they neglect the education. That's not wise steward of the Second Amendment. You
Right.
really need to be educating yourself, probably before you even arm yourself. Get some knowledge in there.
Nice. That's a great answer, man. Really and truly. I love it. Wow. Um, Man, we both been doing this a long time, brother. We really have. I love your stuff, and just these last couple questions too. I love seeing that passion coming out in you like that. You know what I mean? That's Steve right there. You know, and I hope you watch this back, and I hope you get to like really appreciate the way you came across on those last few questions and the answers that you gave. If you are ever feeling stagnant, or you're ever feeling like I don't know what I'm coming up with next, or you're ever even, God forbid, you're thinking about not doing the podcast, rewatch the end of this interview. Okay.
I will.
Because that is, you're going to remind yourself about why you're here and why you do what you do. Because, dude, I rarely see that kind of passion in somebody for what they're
I
causing.
do get passionate about things.
That was amazing. That really was. That made my day. I got to be honest with you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, man. Well, hey, I have kept you very long, and with these podcasts, we try to keep them at a certain amount of time. You and I, of course, went over because it's us. But I really appreciate you coming on to this podcast and talking about the podcasting, aspect of what you do, because I know how important the Second Amendment part is. But the podcasting part is the other half of it that nobody ever wants to talk
Yeah,
about. So I appreciate
right.
you being so game to dive in and do that, brother. I really
Heck yeah.
do. Yeah. So thank you for being on, man.
Oh, thank you for letting me come on your show. It's an honor.
Appreciate that. Folks, you have heard another really cool episode of The Podcaster Nation. This is the podcast that is about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And we're always interviewing podcasters. That's the whole idea. Folks, we're here so that we can build together, so that we can work together, so that we can grow together. In this podcast, in this community that we're putting together right now, the rising tide really and truly raises all ships. So keep sailing. Until next time.